You may think that gun control is a very pie-in-the-sky concept that is politically not viable for all of the obvious reasons. I just wonder if anybody plausibly believes that solving mental health is more plausible than making a difference when it comes to gun control.
Yes. That is a sports writer named Pablo Torres, wants to be a political pundit on Morning Joke this morning. It'd be much easier to just confiscate all the guns in America rather than dealing with the Democrat Party's mental illness. That's right, on Morning Joke this morning on MS-13 DNC. The rallying cry came. We just have to accept the levels of mental illness. Time to confiscate all the guns, round up all the guns in America, and then live with and wallow in our mental illness. Because the Democrat Party says so, the left says so. Well, it's been a very interesting Friday morning so far, I've got to say, no doubt about that. I must get to Barack Obama fighting for crime. He's back. We couldn't see whether he was dressed as a man or not. But Barack Obama warns all Americans are at risk from transgender, mentally ill, heavily armed, psycho-killing, suicidal lunatics. No, from Trump. From Trump. After Trump threatens to clamp down on Chicago. That's the headline. That's the headline right here in The Independent. Of course, President Trump's talking about clamping down on crime, not on the city of Chicago per se, but isn't that amazing? And Barack Obama, he said the expanded use of our military on domestic soil puts the liberties of all Americans at risk. Only the killers, only the gun-toting, crack-selling, baby-shooting, Democrat killers, the gangsters and the bad guys. That's the only people put at risk. Normal people, law-abiding citizens, remember that phrase, law-abiding citizens, not at risk at all. But the story goes on, Barack Obama has slammed, the news media loves that word, slammed. Barack Obama has slammed Donald Trump after he threatened, that is to say, he offered to help fight crime in Chicago, threatened to clamp down on crime in Chicago as part of a major national crackdown. It's a crackdown, and it's a clamp down and a crackdown. On Thursday, internal documents obtained by the New York Times revealed the Trump administration was plotting, that is to say, discussing, a mass immigration operation in Chicago. The Democrats are open borders people, and they want to wave in all the Tren de Aragua gang members from Venezuela and the MS-13 gang members from everywhere throughout points south of Texas and California. But never mind that. Isn't that amazing? And he's plotting. And it's what have we had, a crackdown, and it's a national and a threatened and plotting mass immigration operation in Chicago. They're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions, probably billions of dollars on illegal aliens that the Democrats waved into the country illegally across our southern border. You know, the funny thing is about illegal immigration is that illegal immigration is illegal. And if we're enforcing the law in the United States of America, then we enforce the law, including immigration law. You're in the country illegally.
Illegal immigration is illegal.
See, that's even members of the Senate know that. So the people there say President Trump is plotting mass immigration operation in Chicago involving 200 Homeland Security officials and the use of a naval base outside of the city as a staging area. I'm reminded of the Democrats when they went berserk. You remember a plane load, a small plane load of about 50 to 60 illegal aliens were sent to Martha's Vineyard. You remember that? And the Democrats immediately called up the National Guard and brought them to Martha's Vineyard. Am I right about that? I am right about that. And what did they do with the illegal aliens? You know, the place is full of Portuguese that they use as their house labor and their lawn labor and thing, but never mind that. And they took them to a military base on Cape Cod. And there they put them in containment areas until they could figure out how to get them away from where their multi-million-dollar houses are. and that's kind of fun. That was Martha's Vineyard. I remember that. I also remember when Joe Biden was being inaugurated, and January 6th happened, and Ashli Babbitt was shot and killed in the Capitol by a police officer for the alleged crime of trespassing. And the Democrats are still applauding that. Thank God Ashli Babbitt was shot and killed at point-blank range without using any non-lethal force, without a verbal warning. Just shoot and kill her. She was a Trump supporter. And so the Democrats, the party that fired on Fort Sumter and all of that, they're really something. But speaking of that, we've got more related to that, because there's since we're talking about Martha's Vineyard, and I drifted off to Martha's Vineyard, there's another story out of Nantucket today. You see this story out of Nantucket? It's kind of a fun story. I'm going to get back to all the other big news because there's a lot of big news. But there is a remarkable story out of Nantucket, and there's also an update on Ashli Babbitt as well. But the Nantucket story had me chuckling this morning because it was kind of funny. And the story out of Nantucket is the headline from Fox News: Wealthy Enclave's Sewage. This is Nantucket, which is the island next door to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Gesundheit. Wealthy Enclave's sewage reveals higher than average cocaine levels in the water. Does it come out of your tap water? Do you shower in cocaine? No, this is from the sewage water. But it's kind of funny. Nantucket authorities launched wastewater testing program this summer to monitor island-wide drug trends. Why don't you just ask your kids, hey, got any coke on you? I'd like to do a bump over here. Can we? So the story is the sewage in New England's exclusive Nantucket retreat is full of cocaine. Cocaine. According to local authorities, who this summer began testing it to monitor for potential drug use in a popular summer getaway for the rich and powerful. I'm quoting now from Randolph Rice, a Maryland attorney and legal analyst, who said, during COVID, a lot of these communities, and most communities, he says, decided that it was important for them to start testing the water to see if there were any spikes in COVID in the region, he said. But what Nantucket has now decided to do, as of the beginning of the summer, is to actually start testing for other types of substances, particularly drugs, nicotine, and other items within the system there, the water system, the wastewater system. And what they're finding is that there's a high level of cocaine. Cocaine, you see. The testing conducted at the Surfside Wastewater Treatment Facility on Nantucket found cocaine levels about 50% higher than the national average, according to a publicly posted collection of data from local authorities. The same test found below average levels of fentanyl. You got to check your wastewater where you live. I think this is could be a fun exercise. They found below average levels of fentanyl, a deadly synthetic opioid blamed for overdoses around the country. Local health officials announced the wastewater testing program would begin earlier this summer. The island's treatment plant serves about 3/4 of local homes, which authorities said would give them access to island-wide trends without identifying individual neighborhoods. That's very thoughtful. Protecting privacy while giving health officials a glimpse into what's going on behind closed doors. Hey, surprise, surprise, rich people with private jets and yachts and multi-million-dollar second and third houses on islands off of Massachusetts are also partying a lot and doing a lot of cocaine and smoking a lot of pot, I'm thinking, probably like that. Wow, isn't that amazing? And they said that it's got 1,500 nanograms per liter of cocaine, which is a pretty high level of cocaine by the nanogram. I don't generally test by the nano. Do you test by the nanogram? Not so sure about all that. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. Back in May, local authorities announced to local news outlets what they called the largest cocaine-related drug bust in the history of Nantucket. My best girl and I, we went on vacation in Nantucket one time. very pleasant. We didn't see anybody doing lines cocaine at restaurants or anything like that, but wouldn't be entirely surprising. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. David Katz, a former DEA special agent, told Fox News Digital that the contamination could have come from someone flushing a large amount of drugs to evade authorities. Then he said, nah, that's not it. He said, we used to shut off water before we did search warrants because of the same thing, because they're flushing their coke. So you want to clog the pipes, and then you collect it out of the pipes, and that's it. Another possibility, he added, would be smaller but frequent flushes of cocaine users as the drug leaves their system in the bathroom. No kidding. Gee, why didn't I think of that? The latter scenario seems more likely to rise. Yeah, naturally, because everybody's doing cocaine at parties on Nantucket, and then they, go to the bathroom and everything, and then it's in the wastewater, and then they detected it as part of the testing. The testing was conducted repeatedly throughout the summer, not just one test, any particular instance. To have consistent days, a consistent test with that level of cocaine spikes, it seems to be that it's coming from the zip code and the high level of use by its residents and visitors. That's what he said. So the cocaine, kind of an amusing story. And I also mentioned Ashli Babbitt, and since I mentioned Ashli Babbitt, this is also a big story. Ashli Babbitt, the only person killed on January 6th, she was shot and murdered, if we're going to go by the Minneapolis George Floyd standard, by a U.S. Capitol police officer who was given medals and awards and promotions and a parade by Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats because an Air Force veteran was there. She might have been trespassing. It was a peaceful protest until, Officer Byrd shot and killed Ashli Babbitt. But something happened yesterday that has the Democrats furious as well. Air Force, that's the United States Air Force. Air Force grants full military honors to Ashli Babbitt after military leadership under Biden denied request. Fascists, the Nazis, they're like the SS, they're like the Gestapo. Oh, we got that guy today, too, don't we? Another Democrat calling the federal law enforcement the SS and the Gestapo. He's very angry. And the Air Force giving her honors is in itself a dishonor, former Representative Adam Kinzinger, the alleged Republican from Illinois, said. The Air Force decided to extend military funeral honors to deceased senior airman Ashli Babbitt, who was shot and killed by a police officer during the Capitol riot on January 6th of 2021. The decision came after Air Force leadership during the Biden administration previously denied the request in February of 2021, shortly after Babbitt was killed by a police officer, an unarmed woman. And the Democrats, remember, they were very angry. If you're an illegal alien, wife-beating crack dealer, human trafficker, shot and killed by the police, then the Democrats will burn down the governor's mansion with Molotov cocktails and attack police cars and turn them over and set them on fire. But if you're a 12-year Air Force veteran and you're gunned down because you're a Trump supporter, it could have been trespassing. She might have been guilty of trespassing. There was no charge of insurrection. No one was charged with insurrection. But the decision came after the Air Force leadership Biden administration denied the request February 21, shortly after Babbitt was killed. The decision also comes on the heels of a wrongful death settlement reached in July, which resulted in the government paying the Babbitt family nearly $5 million. $5 million. Because it was a wrongful death and an illegitimate police shooting, that the Democrats applaud to this day because they're not liberals, they're the left, and the left loves killing everybody, just like Vlad the Impaler Putin in Ukraine. Amazing stuff. Yes, sir. And I want to talk to you about living a better digital life with one of our newest partners, WebRoot. We love WebRoot. I chose WebRoot because of the Total Protection Plan. WebRoot's all-in-one package offers a plan option for individuals, allowing coverage for up to 5 devices. And you get a family plan, covers 10 devices. And, they've got you covered no matter what. WebRoot's coverage includes antivirus protection, identity theft protection, VPN backup, and a whole lot more. And listen, your kids are using phones and iPads. Your grandmother living in the attic, she's using a laptop and everything. They've got you covered no matter what. WebRoot allows my best girl and I to live a better digital life, and that's why I want to recommend that you do the same. And right now, because we hang out together, you get 50% off of WebRoot's Total Protection Plan or WebRoot's Essentials Plan when you go to webroots.com/plant on Al Gore's amazing internet. Again, you're going to get 50% off, half off WebRoot's Total Protection Plan or WebRoot's Essentials Plan when you go to webroot.com/plant. Yeah, Ashli, Babbitt, the Democrats are at wrongful death. As you know, the IRS had to pay millions of dollars to patriot groups and Tea Party groups because the Obama administration targeted their political enemies with the IRS.
You bought your ticket. What are you going to do with that money if you win?
Well, I'm definitely going to get a new supercharged Mustang with dual exhaust and about 5 kilos of cocaine, and I'll be good to go.
Okay, so you like cars. You like cars.
So you like cars. That was a Powerball. That was a couple of years ago now. A Powerball jackpot that was huge, $680 million or something like that, and pretty funny interview in Louisiana. I think it was Shreveport, Louisiana. Very funny interview by the nice lady interviewing a guy at a mini mart who was buying his lottery ticket, his Powerball ticket in 2021, October of 2021. So what are you going to do if you win? I'm going to buy a Mustang with dual exhaust and get about 5 kilos of cocaine, $685 million Powerball jackpot, and then I'll be off. And she hilariously, I thought she handled it beautifully, said, oh, so you like cars? You like cars? Yeah, I like cars. And the reason I mention that is because the Powerball jackpot is now up to $950 million. $950 million. Now, the government, they take a piece of this because they've got the guns, you know. And if the Democrats get their way, they'll be the only ones with guns. But you only get 428.9 million of the 950. It may be more than $1 billion by tomorrow. Honestly, I think I'm going to buy a lottery ticket. I'm going to confess. I'll buy a lottery ticket. I could use $950 million.
Okay, so you like cars. You like cars.
You know, we were talking about the cocaine and the wastewater in Nantucket, and then Michael was reminded of the TV interview from a couple of years ago with the $685 million Powerball jackpot where the guy said he's going to get a Mustang, dual exhaust, and 5 kilos. 5 kilos, he said, of cocaine. Because, you know, he's a lottery winner. It's like that. Yeah, and honestly, the story out of Nantucket is pretty wacky for a bunch of reasons. And they did say that they busted, because their wastewater is filled with cocaine, and they determined that it was quite pure. And this is kind of an interesting element in the story, buried in the story, that they arrested a guy for bringing cocaine onto the island, Francisco Fernandez Sanchez, just a couple of months ago. He had 5.5 pounds of cocaine, and they searched his residence, worth $250,000, 5.5 pounds of cocaine, which is probably not enough for the whole summer on Nantucket. It's a tiny island, but there are a lot of rich people with jets and stuff. And the story, it reveals that what's shocking is there's such a low level of trace items in the wastewater where you find the cocaine. For example, there's very little fentanyl or xylazine, which can also be called tranq. Oftentimes, these substances are added to the cocaine to make them more potent, but they also make them more deadly. So it's also telling that Nantucket is getting the pure stuff. The purists are getting the pure stuff, see? Maybe because Trump closed the southern border down, maybe it's harder to get the fentanyl and the xylazine into the cocaine to step on it, you know, to cut the cocaine. That could be the explanation. We're looking into that. We'll get. We're not really looking into that. I'm only kidding. Let's go to the telephones. Let's go to Alan calling from Leesburg, Virginia. Alan, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, Alan.
Thanks for taking the call.
You bet.
Hey, Bob, the caller that called in earlier, he said it's a mental health issue, which it might be, but he also said the Democrats didn't cause it. Bob said that it was satanic or a demonic issue, which possibly it could be, but we have to look at who supports this type of behavior, and it's always the Democrats. I should remind Bob, Democrats support a bunch of people, Hamas, that came into Israel and killed a bunch of innocent people and babies and started that war. But yet Israel is blamed for defending themselves. Mm-hmm. Similarly, Democrats support people with mental health issues just as they support not being hard on people that commit crimes. We see this from Democrat prosecutors, such as in Loudoun and Fairfax counties. Amazing how when a Republican Commonwealth attorney gets into office, such as Loudoun County has now, that crimes are being punished, and harshly they're being punished. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing how that some people can just be blinded by what you would have to call ignorance. That's so common sense and plain sight,
Yeah. Well, and Hamas is still holding hostages in their tunnel network, which was funded by international dollars that were supposed to provide for education and food and things, but instead tunnels where they store missiles to fire at the Jews because they're genocidal anti-Semites. And by the way, since and it does tie together, Alan, and I know you know this, the psycho killer in Minneapolis was hell-bent on destroy Israel, kill the Jews, 6 million, meaning the Holocaust, 6 million was not enough. Donald Trump must die. The guy had a list of Democrat Party talking points, and he was probably a perfectly normal 14-year-old boy. And then the Democrats sunk their teeth into him, probably at school. And they said, well, maybe you're a girl. And then by the time he's 17, his poor mother is taking her son downtown to change his name to her name. And then at the time of his death, he's lamenting the fact that he decided to become a tranny, a transgender person. And he's like, oh, God, and he's talking about being suicidal, right, which is perfectly normal for transgender people. 40% of transgender identifying people at least attempt suicide. And he's saying, oh, boy, I can't believe I decided to become a tranny. Isn't that nuts? And the guy's uncle says, I wish he had shot me instead. This is the mayhem that is caused by one demented and simple act several years earlier, and that is pretending that their son was their daughter.
Correct. And in comparison, you see Republicans that are not supporting that type of stuff. They say that it's a mental health issue. Get them help. But Democrats are always just love them the way they are, which we should, but they need help.
Well, and their kids.
They need mental health.
We don't allow kids to get tattoos. We don't allow kids to do a lot of things. You got to be 16 to drive a car. You got to be 18 to do a lot of different things and 21 to do a lot of different things. But you shouldn't be able to. The Democrats are engaging in child genital mutilation as a regime, as a regimen, and that's nuts. And again, the lunatic, Robert was his name, and he said, call me Robin. And Mom said, oh, isn't this great? I'm going to guess I know what her politics are. And then Mom, who's not cooperating with the police and not talking to the media, understandably, has a lawyer, and her lawyer is, strangely, Colin Kaepernick, NFL Take a Knee for the national anthem, Colin Kaepernick. Right. She strangely has his lawyer representing her because she's afraid, and she perhaps should be afraid, that she might be culpable in some way as her mentally ill, allegedly transgender son, she calls her daughter, buys firearms and then goes and uses them on children at a Catholic school mass. But before he died, he said, I'm tired of being trans. I wish I never brainwashed myself. And I got to say, Alan, I bet before he brainwashed himself that other people brainwashed him.
You're correct. I'm sure.
Yeah, and you hit on a lot of things. Now, you have a background in law enforcement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. I've been a police officer for over 20 years.
Okay, and you see this stuff, and you're right, and Bob talked about the satanic. The Democrats have after-school Satan clubs across the country. So if we're looking for satanic influence, then that again draws a line back to the Democrat Party, and demonic and Hamas. They're the victims, even though they're the genocidal, blood-drenched savages that are still holding hostages, torturing, raping, murdering. Everywhere they go, trying to exterminate the state next door from the river to the sea. And the Democrats have students on American college campuses chanting from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. There was never such a place. And the Democrats are supporting the genocidal terrorists while accusing the people defending themselves of genocide when the Israelis know a thing or two about genocide, I think.
I think you said it correctly.
Yeah. Well, so did you. So did you, Alan. Very well.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's why we're here. This is democracy on wheels. This is America. We do free speech here. That's what we do. And again, Bob got his free speech today too, and he says he voted for Trump, but he said he called in once before. I don't remember. Michael remembers, but. Said Trump, and he said then I made fun of him after for being Trump guy. And I don't know if he's a Trump guy or not what his motivation might have been for voting for Trump. I can't speak to any of that. But he addressed a lot of things, and he's entitled to his opinions too, even if I don't have to agree with everybody's opinions. That would be stupid. What kind of a country would that be? Oh, everybody agrees on everything. That'd be pretty crazy, wouldn't it? Yes, sir. All right, now, Barack Obama, because Barack Obama's in the news. Thank you, Alan. Great call. And thank you for being you. I'm saluting you. Saluting you. Now, Barack Obama, he's not on the side of civilization because, why is that, Michael? Because he's a Democrat. And that means he's the left, because the left is not on the side of civilization. They're the destroyers of worlds. And they've murdered more people than any gang of miscreants in history, including radical Islamists. Hamas and Al Qaeda, and going back to the Middle Ages, the Muslims have murdered millions in the name of Islam, but the left has murdered many millions more in the name of leftism. And Barack Obama, he's not a big fan of human life. 1 million abortions a year, just fine with him. Overwhelmingly black, pay no attention to that. He's a defender of something. But Barack Obama warns all Americans are at risk after Trump threatens clampdown on Chicago, right? And that is completely ridiculous. Now, the other headline: Obama slams Trump use of National Guard to help cities fight crime as dangerous trend. It's a dangerous trend to fight crime. All right, that's what Barack Obama is saying. The former president cited an interview discussing Trump's threat to send National Guard troops to New York and Chicago. And he said, with the blessing of and the permission of the Democrat politicians that are overseeing the massacre there, right? Massacre in Chicago, the massacre in New York, massacre in Los Angeles. But Chicago, it's off the chart. And in fact, I believe that the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, talked about this yesterday from the podium because she was asked, that the governor in Illinois, he's shouting at the president, don't help us fight crime. We don't fight crime. We like crime. And Brandon Johnson, the Democrat mayor of Chicago, a former educator, not a very smart one. They're pushing, you can't help us fight crime. We don't want to fight. We don't want to be like Washington, where you go for 11 days without a single homicide. We love our homicides. And Caroline Leavitt was asked about this at the White House yesterday.
Just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi.
Islamabad, Delhi. You're being compared to third world, maybe on a good day, second world hellholes. Isn't that amazing? Man, oh, man. And there are some funny things happening around this, and Barack Obama's on the wrong side of history He always likes to talk about the arc of history and being on the right side of history. He's been wrong about everything because he's a leftist and he was mentored as a teenager not to be transgender, although there is that Larry Sinclair sexual affair cocaine thing. That involved a lot of cocaine, too. A man named Larry Sinclair from Chicago who talked about having sex with Barack Obama in hotel rooms where they're doing cocaine and says, see how it all comes together. Former President Barack Obama warned of dangerous trends emerging from the Trump administration, saying that the policies of the Trump administration put the liberties of all Americans at risk. There's no reason to believe that that's true. You're an illegal alien drug trafficker. You should be at risk, but never mind that. And then on X, Obama cited an interview with Ezra Klein in the New York Times and a journalist, Ezra Klein show, during which they discussed President Donald Trump's threat. It's an offer to send National Guard troops to New York and Chicago, the former president's hometown. It's not really his hometown. He's from Hawaii. But never mind that. This interview, which is also available on podcast, provide useful information, blah, blah, blah. And Obama wrote, sending people to the interview online, saying the dangerous trends we've been seeing in recent months regarding federalization and militarization of state and local police functions. Now, the thing is, again, when Ashli Babbitt was shot, the Democrats brought in 25,000 National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. These 25,000 National Guard troops came from all 50 states, plus the District of Columbia, plus 3 American territories, and thousands of troops stayed for 4 months, for a third of a year, all right? And that's because Ashli Babbitt was shot and killed. But they were very upset. They noticed there was a riot going on for the first time ever. You know, never mind the 3 days of riots at the White House and 180 police injured and setting fire to the Church of the President's, St. John's Church, and the president and the first family being evacuated from the residence to the underground bunker at the White House. Never mind any of that because the Democrats, they didn't notice any. They have no memory of any of that. But Barack Obama, with this insane Civil War-like rhetoric, the federalization and all this madness. Now, the thing is, in California, the left-wing radical Democrat, is he transgender? The governor, hair gel governor there, he yesterday had some amazing things to say. And the Democrat mayor of Baltimore had something to say that surprised me. And I've got those coming up for you as well. Because it turns out that in the polls, and Democrats don't care about human life, but they do care about polls, and the polls show that nobody's in favor of crime except for the Democrat political leadership. By the way, it's Labor Day weekend coming up, and we have the lowest gas prices this weekend since the last time Trump was in the White House. Minor detail in the scheme of things. But I've got that coming up as well. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier is finally available to all of us. And the third generation builds on the first 2 generations, and first 2 generations got thousands of 5-star reviews all over Al Gore's amazing internet. The new Thunderstorm uses 2 technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria, that's bad, and viruses, also bad, floating in the air that you breathe. Also removes dust and pet dander and smoke and a whole lot more from the air, and it gets rid of any stinky odor with no filters to have to buy and replace again and again like a lot of air filters. The Thunderstorm won't get rid of any stinky smell, trash cans and kitty litter boxes and liberals. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm right now because we hang out together. You can get $200 off on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. So you put one in your basement, your teenager's room, put one in the kitchen, any place you like to have clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS, and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. Yes, sir. Yeah, it turns out Americans are against crime. And Democrats are starting to realize this. So wait till you hear what they're saying now. They're changing their tune, as they used to say. updates for you on crime fighting. The Democrats are against crime fighting. I've got brand new Barack Obama and Eric H. Holder Jr. audio for you. You know, Obama's wingman, his corrupt attorney general. I've got that coming up. And Democrat mayor of Baltimore, the Democrat governor of California, got them coming up. Some of them looked at the polls. It turns out Americans don't like crime as much as the Democrat Party leadership does. They generally have armed security with them, so they feel safer. Let's go to the telephones, Michael, but that's coming right up. Barack Obama. Let's go to Mike calling from Rockford, Illinois. Michael, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, hello.
Hey, Mike.
How are you today?
Very well, Mike. What do you say?
Well, I was saying that every election I try and read whatever the one of the politicians who's running has written. Back when Obama was running, since he was from Illinois and was a senator, and I hadn't really heard about him, I read his two books, and in the middle of the book, Dreams of My Father, he wrote, quote, "I do not remember anything after my second year in high school because of all the drugs I took and all the marijuana I smoked."
Yeah, he was in Hawaii, and Hawaii has the most potent pot in the world, at least back then, certainly did. And he was with the Choom Gang, his buddies in the Choom Gang, and basically all they did was smoke pot all day long. Oh, by the way, there's Tranny in Minnesota. He smoked pot all day and all night, every day, too.
Right. Every time I hear him talk, I just wonder if he has problems with his hearing because he's always yelling. And some of the stuff he says is you wonder where it came from. I obviously didn't vote for him because he never once ever wrote that he quit.
Yeah, so. That's funny. Oh, that's good. Yeah, Dreams from My Father and his, where he talks about Frank Marshall Davis. He just calls him Frank, the Communist Party mentor that teenager Barack had.